Before we start, I want to let you guys know this video will aim to answer 6 things. I can explain the prophecy, shadow crystals, eggs, bleeding monsters, how the world ends, and why ultimately Suzie will decide the conclusion to the story of Deltarune. All by simply using an unlocalized 20-year-old Game Boy game.
If it comes to the West, you can play it and realize how unoriginal I am.
Because the dragon is asleep, these islands are protected from disaster, but its power is too great for humans to control. It was for this reason that our ancient Mcguffins ancestors placed 7 needles in the dragon to make it sleep. 1 needle for each Mcguffin. But it has been told that someone to wake the dragon will appear when its power is needed. However, if the one who needs the dragon's power has a heart of evil, that power will obey all that is evil. It's very possible that everything could be completely destroyed simply to satisfy wicked ambition. On the other hand, the exact opposite is what we hope for. If a person with a heart of good pulls the dragon's needles and uses its power, the fate of all evil will be washed away, and all life as we know it will shine brightly. That is what is told when each of our 7 needles is pulled. We Mcguffins will cease to be, our millennium-long lives over. Isn't that just romantic of us?
The forthcoming nature of the Mother franchise's influence on Toby Fox has served to blind me up until now, I feel. Callbacks and references that very sneakily hide imitation in plain sight. This new mysterious prophecy that's been having everyone rack their brains around for almost a year now. I can confidently say that I believe I understand everything about how Deltarune will end, and all because of the 20-year-old Game Boy game Mother 3, a game that, due to our lack of access in the West, could very easily fly under our noses. There is an outright shocking amount of parallels between these two titles, to the point where I can say in full confidence there is no coincidence. I'll be taking a moment to start by saying the YouTuber Zerake may have the best idea of what was likely foreshadowed in Deltarune's ending. To shortly summarize his theory, it concludes that dialogue, imagery, and the archetypical theming around dragons all point to a dragon being slain, that dragon being Suzie. Very simply put, the hero will slay the dragon, but knowing Toby Fox, arriving to this will ultimately be anything but simple. Intertwined with this haunting prophecy, there is this theme of determinism that has haunted the Deltarune game from the very inception of its title screen. Your choices don't matter, a statement that has most certainly been challenged ever since discovering the Snowgrave route. However, the most haunting omen is received by Rouse near the conclusion of Chapter 4, in which he says, "It's also open-ended, but not in a reassuring way. I have personally had a fixation with a certain Toby Fox quote, one that originated in his interview with Nintendo Life for their video, The Mother We Share documentary. Toby, being a guy that's so often busy with his work, it's just really easy for people to forget that he has a real deep tie to this franchise. I mean, his earliest work, The Halloween Hack, shows he had such commitment to the franchise to basically get in the game's innards and make a whole game, with Earthbound literally being the entire base. The point of him knowing these games down to their code is being mentioned because it'll be very important later on in my theory, so please just bear with me. First, we're going to be discussing one of gaming's most infamous endings, that is the conclusion of Mother 3. And the world, after all of that, is destroyed. Now, there are countless interpretations to Mother 3's ending. In many ways, it's the Sopranos ending of video games. However, before the destruction takes place around us, the prophecy highlights 2 outcomes, one of complete destruction and one of rebirth. We can't all see it, but apparently everyone is here and accounted for. Well, at least when the credits roll, we get to see Klaus regain his organic body. This small detail has made me of the belief that, in fact, everyone in Mother 3 died, at least in a physical sense. At the conclusion of our journey, they all cross over to the new world with their renewed bodies and spirits fully intact. No matter how you look at the victory, in a sense, everything is still tragic. And don't get me wrong, it's certainly more hopeful than bleak, but all of this came at the cost of destroying a home. And this specific idea of a body of people's home being destroyed, but set anew in a new world, should sound very familiar for Undertale and Deltarune fans. We have seen countless signs that Undertale comes after the events of Deltarune. A huge anchor to this theory being the character Sans. It was always so odd that Sans had this implication that he was from another world. Everything involving his origins for so long were just a blur. The two biggest questions at the time were how and why is he here? What exactly happened? Well, definitely nothing good. And it would appear whatever happened left him to a point where going back didn't seem like an appealing option anymore, even a very probable one. Yet another infamous component to Mother 3's ending was a very strange expedition dump that's given to the player just before the climax, which has a character named Leader explain a completely ludicrous story about the true history of the Nowhere Islands of which the people inhabit. How in fact none of its inhabitants are natives to the land, and in fact are from a completely different world. Yeah, no joke, this white ship that he mentions carried everyone away from their far-off land that had already become completely destroyed and uninhabitable. The people allegedly believing that it was divine punishment for the way they had lived. 0K highlights that Rouse explicitly believes kindness to be the only hope to alter the predetermined fate of the prophecy, if we were just kind enough. And I'm so grateful to him, because the minute he said this, it was the exact moment I had realized I could see the events that would unfold in Deltarune's ending. You see, the word kindness explicitly holds significant weight in the Mother 3 community. And now this next part may be a little bit technical for some, but please stay with me. About 4 years ago, a YouTuber named Egg123 made a phenomenal video covering a mysterious character stat in Mother 3 known as, guess what? Kindness. That on the surface had no clear in-game utility, but with some digging, it was shown to boost the effectiveness of your healing PSI. However, after that he proposed something really fascinating. Yeah, this pre-release image of Mother 3 is showing off some sort of consider option that supposedly at some point could have very possibly been able to allow you to disengage from conflict altogether. Sound familiar yet? He then mentioned some unused animations like one of Flynn slashing something, which very likely could have been from a point in development where the game would possibly give you the option to kill the Mother Drago in a brutal act to avenge Hinoa's death. Another find that followed an alternate ending title card that went unused in the final game, leading some to believe that Mother 3 could have had multiple endings at some point. Endings that could have banked on the player's choices throughout their personal adventure. The thing is, the kind of person that would know about this deep coding stuff and have this much information on the Mother franchise would have to be a diehard Mother fan. Someone who knows the games down to their very code. The Dark Crystals become so much less mysterious when you consider the Mother series' favorite main quest objective. They vary in amounts, but in Earthbound and Mother you collect 8 melodies, and in Mother 3, you hunt and pull out 7 needles. Now, so far it's looking like there are going to be 5 shadow crystals. However, that's to be determined, and so far the scheme has been 1 crystal per chapter. And if you wanted to be anal, then you could say 7 needles, 7 crystals. But even if there are just 5, it doesn't eliminate the important parallels between these two things. More explicitly, each of these Mcguffins are under the guardianship of magical, incredibly powerful entities. I believe the super bosses of Deltarune are twisted inversions of the Mcgypsies of Mother 3, upon which when their trials are completed, you attain powers that will directly affect gameplay. Another thing I wanted to show you post-edit that leans into this, if you guys don't believe that Toby even thought about the Mcgypsies while making Deltarune, I want you to listen to these 2 songs side by side. It's a motif no one has mentioned. However, we all know the main question surrounding the shadow crystals has more or less to do with their narrative purpose. Well, what do I believe? Well, I could only imagine they have to do something with Suzie burning bright, burning black, burning everything up. Yes, this Gerson line is very important foreshadowing for Suzie's destructive capabilities. But he also follows up with a statement that this destructive power is able to be written over with a white pen known as hope. This duality is so fascinating because the Dragon of the Nowhere Islands can be framed in the exact same way. It is quite literally a dragon influenced by the heart of the people that it's exposed to, with Lucas and Klaus respectively pulling the needles. And that alone is simple enough. If the person has a heart of love, it will birth and usher in new life, but with one of hate, will bring about oblivion. But Suzie is not restrained by any needles, so what dictates how she uses her power is influenced directly by what you, the player, have shown her in all of your more intimate and immediate decision making throughout the game. But let's not forget, the Dragon from Nowhere is not a simple Shenron where he magically fixes all of the world's problems. Far from it. In fact, what the dragon promises is one of two things. One, destroying the planet and sending the very concept of life itself into oblivion and nothingness. Or two, resetting the world and bringing out a brand new era of life. Meaning, no matter what, the world is toast. And we physically saw it. We already know the world of Deltarune will be destroyed. With what we know about Undertale, something must have happened that all the monsters of Deltarune somehow ended up in the underground. However, ending in destruction isn't the same as ending up hopeless. Their homes may be gone, but their spirits living on a whole new life. Basically, the tragedy will be that everything in the world will come to an end, but the silver lining will be a life elsewhere. Suzie somehow manifesting her power into this force in some sort of big sacrifice to give everyone a chance in a new world with a new life. It's tragic, yes, again, but the silver lining being life goes on, just elsewhere. But that's if you made the best of decisions. What if we go full out Snowgrave or genocide and just let loose, killing everything? You know, use determination for despicable acts. Well, I have one very specific idea of what would happen and more or less how. Let's all take a look at everyone's favorite ability, Rude Buster. This technique is so interesting because I watched a video explaining the connections shared between Deltarune and Brandish. It's a truly fantastic watch. Basically, it's posited that Rude Buster is a reference to the legendary sword named, let's see, what's its name? Here it is. Oh, it's called the Planet Buster. You can't make this up. I am truly of the belief that this Planet Buster technique will be Suzie's final dark magic, and I'll get this out of the way right now. I believe Suzie lives no matter what, just not how you expect. I personally believe this game is a retelling of Mother 3, if you couldn't tell. I've implied to you guys that I completely subscribe to Slain Dragon theory, but that's not exactly the truth. I believe in Sealed Dragon theory. As stated earlier, I believe that I could see Suzie doing something that puts herself in a place where she has to make some sort of huge sacrifice. And that really could be as simple as her losing complete contact with her new friends because of whatever she has to do. If not that, she'll usher in destruction and simply be alone forever in the dark. In Porky's plan to summon the dragon, he hopes that it could be him and the dragon for an eternity of nothingness. We already know Suzie functions outside of the player's rules and in some capacity has determination to dictate what happens in the game. She'll act independently of you. That is to say, she, like the Dark Dragon, just is, regardless of anything. I guess if I had to choose, I would have no end. I wonder if it's any coincidence that this apocalyptic, cataclysmic event of the end of the world is also called the Roaring. We already know of the Roaring Night, but doesn't the Roaring Dragon already sound like it's just kinda, I don't know, meant to be? Nothing about the final prophecy seems so cut and dry, especially when it comes to the identity of certain characters appearing in it. So this theme of duality and alternate possibilities and how things could look from the light and the dark, I also see certain things having other meanings. A personal example that I've toyed with a lot is this whole idea about deaths being trapped in the dark. Similar to how we don't fully know about the girl in the prophecy being Suzie, we don't know if the girl in the main anthem of Deltarune is even Des, to be honest with you. Don't Forget could really be seen in a lot of ways, especially when you consider timeline hopping is no stranger to these games. An example would be, okay, so is the song about Des watching everyone from the dark current moment, pleading with everyone not to forget her? But here's the thing, I don't really see Des as forgotten. I mean, it's clear her parents remember her and her sister definitely does. I just can't help but find it hysterical that this will most certainly be the final credits for when the full game is eventually out, where we will inevitably get a full version, but this could easily, to me, sound like a song about Suzie, sealed away due to her final choice to save every one of her friends. We all know that Sans kept that picture with him over in Undertale. You know, memories are such a big deal in both Deltarune and Mother 3. So I want to take a look at what Leader has to say about everyone's memories. I also want to warn you now, I'm like 80% certain that Leader's final speech basically spoils the entirety of Deltarune's ending. Like a straight up clear glimpse into what's going on really in the world of Undertale and Deltarune respectively. Check this out.
What I'm about to tell you, you might not want to know. Even so, you absolutely must hear it. At some point, the world wound up destroyed. Naturally, it was humans who destroyed it. Just before the end of the world, a white ship came to these islands. On it were all the people of Tasmili village. Aboard the white ship were those few who had managed to escape the world. The people on the ship still went by their names from the previous world. This white ship plan had been set in place before the world was destroyed. Long, long ago, people lived together with the dragon. However, at some point in time, the people and the dragon could no longer coexist. So using the 7 needles, the dragon was placed into a long sleep. Ever since, the Mcguffins have guarded the needles in an effort to prevent the dragon from being woken until its power is truly needed. Those who came here aboard the white ship feared another end of the world more than anything else. They felt that the world's destruction was a direct result of the way they had lived. The people of the white ship discussed things at great length. They shared their wisdom and spoke with grave seriousness. And then they arrived at their conclusion. They decided to completely erase everyone's memories of the previous world and start their lives over with new rules and new roles. And thus, the village of Snowdin came to be. However, it was necessary to record the fact that the memory replacement had taken place. And there's one other thing. Me. It was essential that one person retain memory of the previous world to sort of keep watch over things. No, that doesn't mean I was anyone special. So, upon discussion, I was selected because it would be easier for me to stand out. Truthfully, we had no idea how Snowdin Village would turn out. The people who had arrived on the white ship had fully taken to their new identities. They believed they had always lived together peacefully. It was then a person by the name of Porky stumbled upon these islands that everything started to go amok. It seems he used a time distorter machine to travel through space and time at will. However, He was apparently shut out from all other times and spaces. This porky fellow seems to view these islands as his own personal toy box. He would take animals apart and recombine them to make creepy, new amalgams. The dragon is the power of the very earth itself, you see. It's said that whoever pulls the sealing needles will become the dragon's master. It seems you are chosen one, with the ability to pull the needles sealing the dragon away. You must pull the dark dragon's needle with your own hands and pass your heart on to the dragon. All things may come to an end, or new and bountiful things may begin.
Doesn't this provide so much clarity? A time meddler wiped memories of a past life left behind with complete recollections of a world that they can no longer return to? Truly, is all of this just a coincidence? Obviously, some elements are remixed, and I'm not implying that Gaster and Porky are one and the same. I'm not even saying that they're the same morally, but then again, who knows? Both of these guys are guilty of meddling with timelines and playing God with chimeras and amalgams respectively. Oh, and yeah, being banished from the very concept of time itself. Two entities that seemingly sees precious life as more of a personal tool for entertainment. Gaster seeing them more as experiments, but at its core, is it that much better? Similar to Porky, we haven't seen Gaster at all. But even without seeing him, he's been messing with our journey from the very start, from the moment we boot up the game. He's always right up in our face, but we just can't get him. In Mother 3, we don't see Porky till the tail end of our adventure. And if I was a betting man, I would imagine that the man who speaks in hands will follow suit with similar timing. Aside the seemingly dark occult ties of Gaster, or at least theming. Another thing that puts him aside from Porky is the fact that he's an actual genius. Actually, now that I say it out loud, he's a lot more like Andonuts. Huh. Look at that. This seeming perversion of the genius scientist is not exactly cut and dry evil as of yet within the Deltarune universe. Yet. But something to note is that he will blatantly play a key role in preserving the people of this world. I mean, the fact that he ends up being the royal scientist in Undertale means that he has to be present in some capacity by the end of Deltarune, unless we're due for more time-hopping shenanigans, which, I don't want to open that can of worms. But I would very well imagine that he will have something to do with the transport of all of these people being brought into the new world of Undertale. Something that's haunted fans for a long time has been Sans bleeding at the end of the genocide route. And now more recently, we've all been in a panic after seeing Suzie bleed in Chapter 4. I had originally really liked the idea of her being half human, but I sadly can't subscribe to the theory, because I believe that almost all monsters in the world of Deltarune specifically do bleed. Now I know people are going to be quick to say, well, Gerson had his jar of dust, but to be honest with you, that doesn't really prove anything. You see, Sans bled, but we also heard him dissipate into dust off screen. I don't necessarily think just because you dust, you're incapable of spilling blood. I mean, the little kid makes that weird comment about just having blood hurt or whatever, but he's a little kid. I want to propose the idea that this dust dilemma was the result of some sort of augmentation made to the lighteners. Their bodies might have had to undergo some sort of process proposed by Gaster. And isn't it interesting that presumably Gaster is speaking to us at the start of the game, where we see variants of these empty body vessel things that he seems to be tampering with and placing souls in them, regardless of what they choose. My best guess is that these bodies may function sort of like the Devil's Machine in Earthbound, meant to contain souls that can't survive traveling through the rips of time and space. The Chosen Four had to use it to survive time misplacement and ultimately battle Gaius. The price to pay, everyone's bodies and their souls being moved, and at what debatably the greatest cost of all would be, one's memory. Now, all we know about eggs in Deltarune is that they are seemingly tied to Chris's memories, and you access these eggs by going nowhere. Oh, and this nowhere is on an island? Wow. How many more times are we gonna hit these kind of walls? Well, let's hit another one again where I explained to you guys that Osohe Castle has a hidden treasure. You work really hard to get it with Duster and Co. And come to find out that this treasure is called the Egg of Light, which contains everyone's memories of the old world, in addition to the entire history of the people of Tazmily pre-Tazmily. Toby even used memory eggs. Like, these things are not just parallel thinking. This is really a retelling of Mother 3, just remixed. Am I getting through to anyone? I know a lot of this theory has been very broad strokes. I know it doesn't contain any file digging or any in-game code deciphering. I'm simply a dude that loves Mother and Deltarune. And I noticed some stuff. Thanks to actual hardworking theorizers videos, I totally had this inspiration to make this, and especially I really want to shout out that Slain Dragon video. I'm pretty confident that without that video, none of this would have dawned on me. And I really want to thank you guys if you stuck around listening this long. Obviously, this doesn't cover every single plot detail and address every single character's individual arcs or what exactly they're going to go through, because obviously that's impossible to know. No one could really figure that kind of thing out. And honestly, I'm glad, because at the end of the day, aside all these parallels to Mother, Deltarune can stand entirely on its own, by its own merits as a franchise, even apart Mother, and is still wholly its own unique experience. Its own characters, music, set pieces, and even themes. I am just a random man on the internet hoping that you'll like and subscribe. But you know what? It's just me who thinks that it's entirely its own thing and still entirely unique. I really am nobody in all this. But I think Toby said something on Mother 3. And what was it that he said again?
If it comes to the West, you can play it and realize how unoriginal I am.
Salute to the American race. USA. Oh boy, it's wild to say. Good morning, USA. Good morning, USA.